the obvious, but you hear it from Microsoft's own mouth, that they say, well, the way analysts make money is not by showing you statistics. That doesn't make any money. But when they allow you to change the statistics, so that they allow you to change the methods they use to get the statistics or the data. For example, net applications can take lots and lots and lots of IP addresses from Microsoft.com and MSN.com. And all of a sudden you see a surge in number of users using Windows and Internet Explorer and all that. And by allowing them to do that, they can still claim to be delivering market share just from a few more sites. They don't have to give you don't actually give you the list of websites. But what you will find is that they will be able to change the figures just by vested interest with the clients. Another thing I should point out, though, I was going to say this before, is those sites that give them the logs or give them basically the user's data with IP addresses and everything, which kind of identifies precisely some of the people and what they do and where they move around the web. As far as that, I would never give a company this data for statistics, for gathering of some chart somewhere, just because I care about the privacy of my visitors. I don't think I would want my information being given away like that. I know it is being given away by people, by certain websites, and that's why I don't allow JavaScript to run, for example, but because it gives more information than just the usual stuff. But I think that in general, Linux users tend to visit certain websites that are kind of more privacy aware. So as far as I can tell, the sites which will give away logs are sites that tend to attract, I don't want to insult Windows users, or especially Windows users, but they tend to attract people who care less about privacy and probably are less aware of these issues, are less enlightened, and that's why any site that gives these data, that donates this data to, without anonymizing the results, giving away this data to some company somewhere, is a site that probably doesn't attract people who care about privacy and probably don't use Linux, or not many of them will use Linux. And this is one of the population factors you have to take into consideration. If we take patients into the scanner, and as we take the patients into the scanner, we don't take into account the fact that these are the people who are willing to go into the scanner to have their data taken, then we miss out the fact that we already chosen a certain type of the population. Basically what we scan is not a random bunch of people in the population. These are people who are willing to go into the scanner. So we already pre-selected and restricted the data set we have. We have to take into account that. If you're talking about people taking surveys in general, lots of people don't feel like taking surveys because they don't want to do that. What you do tend to have is all the generous people who give away their time filling out your surveys, but you don't get the population in general. You get people who are willing to do surveys, giving you the data, and then you draw conclusions based on this population. And this is also a thing you have to take into account. The privacy awareness and what kind of pre-selection you've done to the population before. I hope you don't mind me talking about this for a long time.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, one thing I should point out, that's the last thing I promise, is I looked quite a few leaked documents from Microsoft around 2008, I think. And one of them that you found, this is not stuff you're supposed to know or to see, is how Microsoft uses IDC, which is a part of IDG, the company behind lots of the news sites you read. They basically try and call, to do surveys, they try to call certain companies that are already customers or users of Windows to give them their opinion of Linux, and based on this they do a survey on Linux. Now, obviously you see what's wrong here, because they already pre-select people who are not Linux users, but people who are leaning towards Windows, and then they get their results that they want. So IDC can come up with a press release saying, well, this and this number of people are not so excited about Linux, but they don't tell you what the population is and who they actually contacted. In the documents, you see exactly that they knew exactly what they were doing and who they contacted, and they still did that. And that's just completely flawed research, but they don't publish these facts.
I mean, in closing, sort of, from my point of view, what I would say to anybody, and I would hope that some Windows users listening to this audio cast, I'm not in the habit of sitting promoting something or saying how great something is if it isn't actually any good. If the Windows Microsoft solution was better for me, I would certainly be using it, and I certainly wouldn't be sitting on a Friday evening, as we're recording this now, saying about how great I think Linux is if it wasn't great. And I think the big thing that everybody should do is ignore the PR, ignore the hype, and actually try it for yourself. It's so risk-free to try Linux in the home, especially with live CDs. You can just bug it in, have a little look, and obviously if you like it, then you can slowly integrate yourself into Linux by maybe dual booting. And it is a fantastic system. Everybody I've installed Linux for, bar about 3 people who had specialist requirements for Windows-only software, have loved their Linux experience and would never go back again. But that's just my opinion. And like I say, the whole purpose of this is for you to try it for yourself, and don't be swayed by one person telling you it's great or one person telling you it's bad. Try it for yourself, see what you think, because obviously the best person's opinion is your own. And that was just sort of what I wanted to add on to this, because we get a lot of the statistics, and they say, oh, well, Linux is bad because only 1% use it, and this person says Linux is bad because of X, Y, and Z. And at the end of the day, it's all just somebody else's point of view or somebody else's opinion. So try it for yourself, give it a go. If you don't like it, you've lost nothing. It's certainly not going to cost you anything to try it. And who knows, you might be enjoying a better computer experience in the future because of it. So give it a go. So, Roy, I'll let you get. Is there anything else you wanted to cover in regards to that?
Probably expanding on your point about PR. This isn't exactly about free software now, but it's a general message or advice I try to give people about how to deal with radio or television, or in the context of technology, or it could be things like even politics. They have to try. It's hard for most people to distance themselves from the mainstream channels of information. Some people listen to radio in the car, and it tends to be very much emphasizing an agenda of someone. And they say, well, it's free. I can get the radio for free. Or this today, I had a person hear about the free newspaper, and I said, well, there is no free newspaper. I said, well, they sell you something, don't you think? And it's not just the ads, it's even things like buys. They sell all kinds of things, and they have a reason to give it to you for free. It's not charity. If a newspaper is for free, it tries to give you something, which is a benefit to the person who gives it for free. And when it comes to information, I find that what's a true trap here, this is why I don't like some parts of the mainstream media. I don't like the Rupert Murdoch type controlled media, which tends to enhance the PR. What they do is, it's not just the PR. You say don't listen to the PR. The problem is the PR defines the news themselves. So if you read the Wall Street Journal, you might say that's not PR. Well, it is inspired by PR. It's people who read the PR, who maybe spoke to the company in question, but they don't even speak to the company in question. They have contacts in the PR, and the contacts are usually some external company whose job that is to say the company's objective and the company's responsibility to shareholders is to deceive, to lie, to embellish, to tell a good story if they want to survive. Otherwise, they'll go out of business and, choose a different PR agency next time. Their job is to try and ensure that the news is as similar as possible to the press release. In some sites, you just copy the press release, you just publish them away. And I gathered a list of websites that do that. Basically, they're not websites, they're just basically press release reprinters, and they make it sound like it's articles, and sometimes they change a few words to make it seem like they actually wrote the article. They change the headline, and they put like an author name, and they put a picture of the guy or the girl, and it's like, hold on a second, that's the press release. It's not your article. It's wrong to attribute this to you. But after a few years, there is no way for you to put the press release and the article in alignment, because it's hard to find them and to align the same dates. And what you have then is basically a whole kind of garbage pile of articles which are derivatives of the press release. And sometimes then you have the people who completely ignore and dismiss the press release and try to do their own research. but their article is going to be very much an outlier compared to the pool of articles which have been kind of spewed out by the marketing companies and the PR, and you would assume they are not correct because they say something different.